Hey everybody, and welcome back to Investment Honey, where we talk about various crypto projects. But before we begin, just a couple of reminders as always that I'm not your financial advisor and we never provide investment advice on the channel. So with that being said, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to the series, just some things that you might want to be aware of. I would always encourage you to go back to the first video in the series just to kind of understand how things are going to flow, what we're going to talk about and so forth. But if you're somebody that has continued to follow the series, I do appreciate, you following along, you subscribing, to the channel and just being here, with us, as we continue to just navigate Dexscreener every day or daily or as much as possible to discover, different tokens, that, we come across, hopefully we're early on, right? So that's the whole point of this. So with that being said, what we're going to do in terms of what you can expect, we're going to go back through some of the alerts that we have already set. We're going to see if there's anything going on, with those, tokens. There's going to be some other information that I will, certainly cover, just from an educational and informational standpoint. And then we're going to take a look at some filters to see, what's going on new on the blockchain today. Okay, so with that being said, you can see I've got several different, tabs open, so that's where we're going to start. All right. So here we are. We've talked about paper, before, in the last video, and I think the one before that as well, as a token, that we're continuing to watch. Now we can see that we're sitting at a market cap of 96,000. Let's take a look at what's going on here in the alerts. We can see that according to our note that we set that at 108K. And at 108K, we've got two alerts here. One is disabled. So obviously remember, when it's been disabled, that means it's already been triggered, okay? So at some point, this touched over 150K. Now this one is still active, okay? And what that means is that, obviously it hasn't been triggered, so we want to be alerted when this one goes under 80K. Now, right now we're sitting at 96K. I still think that, setting this this alert, for when it goes under a certain market cap still makes a lot of sense. So we're going to keep it at 80K. And then this one here at 150, I think this is still pretty good, but we're going to make a small edit. I'm going to go ahead because remember, these alerts are set as indicators, indicating to us whether we want to pay attention, to our token or not, and then make a decision, from there. So I'm going to set it a little lower at 125K. And remember, this is a fluid process, so this is just where I feel comfortable, doing in terms of, what you're seeing. And again, this is kind of how I navigate it, but you can always choose a different number, especially if you're choosing to set some of the same alerts that I'm setting, as you follow along, in this video series. Okay. So we're going to click save there. Guys, give me a second. Okay. Okay, so now that we've gone ahead and set that, we're going to exit. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going ahead and mentioning that we're taking a look at paper, we're adjusting the one of the alerts, and then we're going to go ahead and move on. Now, looking at Claude 2, we can see, looking at this one, obviously there has been, or not Claude 2, but actually we're looking at Claude 2, went over to Fusk. Okay, so looking at Claude 2, this is one that I talked about, a couple of days ago where we were in the channel, and one of the things that I remember saying is that, look, man, even though we're getting buys, there's nothing that I was seeing in the channel that would indicate that there was going to be additional buy pressure, so forth. But we did set some alerts to at least keep an eye on, where this one could potentially go. Okay, so with that being said, we can see there's been some movement on this chart. And I was actually looking at this stuff, earlier this morning, and then just out of nowhere, buys started coming in. We're not talking about subtle buys. We're talking big buys started to come in. And I was like, what on earth is going on? So I went back into the channel to see what was going on. And it looks like they paid for some trending, so that was the catalyst that led to, this movement on the chart. And again, why do we set these alerts? We set these alerts because, again, they're indicators. And if it actually triggers an alert, it leads us to take the next step. And what's the next step? The next step is to investigate what's going on. Okay. So, if we look at the alerts here were set at 280. Well, the first one, when we looked at this initially, it was set at 286K, right? And obviously you can see that I went ahead and I made another alert before I did the video. And this was when the chart was sitting at 639,000. So obviously, what do we know? We know that this has made some moves. Now, I will tell you that it went over 700K, earlier this morning. So if this was one that you were watching as well, where maybe you decided to set, the same alert that I had set. And maybe you decided to take a position, in this. Maybe you set your stop loss, if you're using a bot, at a certain market cap, where maybe you were still in it, and then all of a sudden, started to go ahead and move this morning. I don't know, but either way, this one did make some movement, which it's encouraging to see, because like I said, initially when we saw this particular, token, I wasn't sure about this, that there was going to be anything that was going to move it beyond, where it was, even though we were still seeing buys on the chart, so because based on everything that I saw, at the time of recording the video, there was nothing that, was being communicated that said they were working on pushing the token beyond just buys that were just kind of arbitrarily just coming in, and people tend to follow volume. People tend to, engage in FOMO, so if they see that there's volume, they see that there's buys taking place on a particular token, what happens is a natural byproduct of that, people tend to go ahead and just start buying into charts, right? And people also like buying into charts, where they're seeing buys coming in. So, but like I said, from the analysis standpoint, if I'm not seeing something that's indicating that, hey, the team is going to continue to push the token, or the community is also, participating and trying to gain exposure, or increase exposure, for that particular token, then that's going to be a token that I'm going to watch, but I'm not necessarily going to take a position in. Okay. So that's just, my thoughts there on that. But it is encouraging to see that this one did, it's moved well beyond that initial 286K. When we initially saw this token and set those alerts, so when, and just going back into the alerts, because it did touch this and beyond, I wanted to see if it would actually retrace under 500K, and then maybe I would go ahead and reevaluate, as far as, whether I wanted to do something with this, so that's just, something I wanted to share with you, in regards to this one that we were looking at in another video. All right, so we're going to close out Quad 2. All right, and then this is me just basically taking a screenshot to show you that this is where they got to 769. Again, from that 286 that we, that the alert was set, when that alert was set. So obviously some pretty good movement, on this one, and now it's retraced, into the 450, 460K area, so we'll see where it goes, from here. Now this one I bring up, and the chart doesn't look great, but when I looked at this initially, you didn't have, this block of cells here. Initially, you had this one green candle right here, and then you had this one red candle right here. The rest of the cells came later. But the reason why I'm bringing up, the caffeinated cats token is because I want to show you, yesterday we looked at bubble maps, and we don't always look at bubble maps, but I did indicate that looking at bubble maps does give you another data point. It gives you another piece of information in the overall context of what you should be looking at when you are trying to make an evaluation and assessment as to whether you want to possibly take an entry into a token. All right, so here we're looking at, the first screenshot that I took, and I highlighted this right here, and you can see that even though it's saying this is wallet rank number 5, so this is the 5th wallet, okay, they hold 2.8%, but the cluster percentage, these are other wallets that they also own. So their total, supply that they hold between all of their wallets is over 15%. That is a red flag, okay? Here's the next one. This one, this is wallet 10, so this is still in the same cluster, okay? So I wanted to, and the reason why I opened up this screenshot is so that you could actually see the wallets list. In this one, I don't think I opened that up, so I didn't open it up here, but here is, a more detailed version of what's going on. And you can see in this percentage, and this is the nice thing about bubble maps, is that they'll go ahead and they'll show you the relationships, between wallets as far as, who's holding what in terms of overall supply. So here we can see another wallet, and like I said, you can see in this screenshot 15.43, and we're looking at wallet number 5. But now we're looking at wallet number 10. They also own the same. They own wallet 5, and they own wallet number 10. And this particular wallet's only holding 2.3%, but again, their percentage of total supply that they're holding between all the wallets that they hold in this particular token is over 15%, which is crazy, because if they sold all their wallets at the same time, they would literally kill this chart, okay? Which would inevitably lead to panic selling, right? Especially if, let's say the token started to move, let's say it started to do really well in the market cap, and they decide to go ahead and dump their tokens. So just keep that in mind. And I show you with these, not only with the box here, what I'm indicating here, okay, the arrow here to the 15%, the arrow here to the cluster, and then from here in their wallets list pointing back to that cluster. Looking at the third cluster, we can see this is the one down here, okay? And if you're not familiar with bubble maps, like I said yesterday, I am no professional. I'm not a guru when it comes to understanding, bubble maps, okay? But in terms of basic information, I do kind of understand the basics of it. So looking here, I highlighted, this one right here, and obviously these two arrows are pointing to the other two wallets that they hold. So this is the second wallet. They're holding 5% in this wallet, but their cluster percentage is 9%. So, and this is obviously right here, wallet number 2. And again, this is their cluster, but between all three wallets, they hold over 9% of supply. So keep in mind, when you see that kind of stuff, it's not a good idea because, again, when the token continues to move up in market cap, and even right now where it's sitting in terms of its position, on the market cap, yeah, it's at lower levels, but if these guys decide to go ahead and dump wallets, I mean, it kills the chart, so keep that in mind as far as what you're looking at, and overall evaluation and assessment in terms of what you want to do, as you're assessing whether you want to take a position. Looking at bubble maps, as I said yesterday, it's not a bad idea because it gives you some additional information that you want to pay attention to as you make an assessment. Now, we're going to close out this, and this. And now we're looking at the FUSC token, which, remember, this is the finger Elon Musk token, and looking at the alerts. So we've got one that's disabled, and we started looking at this one at 118K. It says alert me when the market cap goes over 145. So obviously this has moved from 118K to 231. Now, are they sitting at their high? Let's move out of this real quick. So it does look like, they're basically at their high point, okay? Even higher than, where they were at launch. So again, if you're somebody that decided to, if you're mirroring the same alerts that I'm setting, let's take that scenario. This is one that maybe, even though I tend to watch a lot of stuff, before I decide to go ahead and do anything, maybe you're a different person in that respect. Maybe if if you set the alert, you decide to go ahead and just jump in. If that's the case, then you would already be in profit, okay? Because obviously this is done, if it's 118, this is already done at 2x, at this point. And yes, like I told you before, I'm not interested in buying the top of a candle, so I do believe that a candle like this is not going to be allowed to stand. You can already see, looking at the buy transactions here, in this area, that there has already been some sells. It looks like they're being sensible. I mean, because you got to consider, we've been looking at this token for like 3 days. So the fact that this thing hasn't dumped, tells me that, hey, there is some conviction, by the holders, of this particular token. So even though you got this candle here, this buy candle, yes, I absolutely do believe there's going to be retracement. We just don't know when it's going to come, but it's absolutely going to come because, again, if you got people that maybe bought in this area and this is where they're at now, they're absolutely up, pretty big at this point. And, let's say that they made maybe a big buy, maybe $1,000. They're obviously at some point, either they're waiting to see if there's going to be more buys that are going to come in. And obviously now we're at the tippy top, of the high point, or they're going to go ahead and they're going to sell, maybe because they might be concerned that somebody else might sell before they do, which obviously, decreases the value of their bag, so keep that in mind. Even though we see that, yes, oh great, we're seeing some movement and it's, positive movement and so forth in regards to this token, there absolutely is going to be a downtrend at some point. And then once that downtrend happens, once those sales take place, then we want to see if there's going to be more buy support that's going to come into the chart for another leg on that chart. So keep that in mind. All right, so I just wanted to go ahead and show you that this is one, where we did take a look at it in terms of the alerts that we set. That this one was disabled because obviously it triggered, because it went over 145. And then this one here, alert me when the market cap goes under 80,000. I doubt at this point, especially if the uptrend continues, if the support continues for this particular token, I don't think that we're probably going to see 80,000 again. However, I'm going to update this one and I'm going to set this at, I don't know, let's do something reasonable like, 190K. Let's see if maybe it decides to go ahead and retrace, at that point. Obviously, we're going to adjust this because we're looking at this now at 234K, so we have to adjust our note as well. Also, guys, keep in mind, if I am talking too fast, if I'm going too fast, the benefit of the video is that you can always go back to review what I'm saying. Okay, I would certainly encourage you to do that, especially if you're not used to doing this, or if you're newer, to crypto. Definitely go back and review the information so that you kind of, wrap your head around exactly what I'm doing, what I'm saying, so that you can kind of start to make it automatic in terms of your own analysis and evaluation when you're taking a look, at various charts. All right, so we're going to go and we're going to save this. So here we go. All right, so we've saved it at the new, point of 234K. And then here at 234, I mean, I can go ahead and I can adjust this one in terms of, an over alert, but what would that look like, since we're at 234? So I don't know that for me personally at this point, I don't know, I'm going to cancel that. I don't know that I'm so much interested in where it's going to go up from here. I'm more interested in the retracement. Okay. And you have to also make that decision too. And I'm doing that live for you, as we're doing the video, that it doesn't make any sense for me at this point personally to do another alert or to make another alert, as far as when it goes up. All right, I was interested in that, at the lower levels, sitting that 118K area to see, is the token actually going to move? Okay, because again, I want an indication of whether I decide or should, jump into a token, or whether I just want to go ahead and say, fine, we're going to leave this alone. I'm going to delete the alerts and we're going to move on to something else. But at this point, like I said, it doesn't make any sense for me to set a new alert for when it goes up. That's just my own personal opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one out. I am very much interested in retracement at this point. So where does it go in terms of its high point right now? And if we can get to maybe that 190 area, fine. I may decide to go ahead and jump in. Now, you can continue to go ahead and watch this one. And if you feel like, hey, man, this looks like this has got legs to go ahead and move, into maybe a 300K, 400K, 500K arena, maybe, you decide to go ahead and buy the top. There are instances, where people do go ahead and buy the top because finding retracement or a better position is hard to come by sometimes on various charts, but that would come down to maybe I want to look at the Telegram, maybe I want to look at the channel and I want to see what's going on, with the community, the sentiment, there is it, are they really, really excited? Are they really, really bullish and so forth? And maybe that might help me to make, a better decision in terms of, does it make sense for me to buy, the top of a candle? I've also said, like I told you yesterday, if you do go ahead and buy in at these higher levels, knowing that, there's probably going to be some retracement, yes, it's not a great idea to go ahead and get in here. But if you do, maybe that buy is a small buy, and again, this is just my own personal opinion. You guys do whatever you want, but maybe that buy is a small buy. If you're using a bot, you can always go ahead and, set, especially in the case of Maestro, which, you guys know, I've given you that Maestro link in the video description. Because I know with Maestro, you can go ahead and set a buy a dip, trigger. So if you get in and let's say I don't know, let's do something, really, really meager, like $2. You put $2 in at this high point because it's going to come down, but maybe it hits, that 190 trigger. Maybe it goes even lower than that. Then maybe on that dip position, you say, okay, here's where I want to go and put my bigger buy in. Okay. And then obviously the bot will trigger, once it gets there, assuming that all other conditions are met, you got enough gas and so forth to go ahead and put in there to actually get your buy through. Okay. So, and obviously with Solana, they're not really dealing with gas per se, it's more or less in terms of, what you're tipping, to go ahead and get that buy through faster. But either way, that's something else you could do, in terms of just getting a buy-in on the chart and then, putting a dip, order in. And then there's also DCAing, as well. So you just kind of got to pick, and do whatever you choose to do. But obviously, as you know, I just want to reiterate, we don't ever encourage you to buy anything. Okay. Obviously I'm providing information and it's up to you as to, what you want to do with that information moving forward. Okay. So we're going to move on from this one. We're going to go to this tips token. And what did I say yesterday? I said, I think, what was the alert? Because I wanted to say if it went under, okay, I felt like if it went under 50, that, I'd have to go and take a look at this, but I might, because I was on the verge of really just getting rid of this one yesterday. However, this one, obviously, I think I mentioned yesterday it was trading sideways, and now it's in the 30K arena. Okay, so at this point for me personally, I'm kind of done with tips with AI. Okay, so I'm just making you aware, but I wanted to at least bring this one up and show you kind of the progression on the chart, since we've been looking at this one for at least 2 days, that, I had reservations about this one. It made some moves. Here was the last, climb that it made. Then we saw some big retracement, tried to make a little mini climb here, and then big retracement here. And every time there's a climb, what's going on with that climb? There is more and more retracement. They've got a little mini buy going on right here, this $500, almost $500 buy that came in right here. I'm curious to see, has he got anything else? Okay, so this is one buy on the chart. So I personally think this is going to be, there's going to be more retracement here, probably because you got people that are probably in loss. They're going to go ahead and essentially use this guy, or this buyer as exit liquidity for him. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and remove our alert on this one. Okay, and like I said, I'm done with tips with AI. So we're closing this one out. I'm not talking about this one anymore. All right, and then we're looking at Persona. Okay, so this one I brought up because we set an alert, or we set alerts yesterday, and those alerts were set at 107K. All right, so this obviously now is sitting at 192, but that's just where it's sitting at now. I mean, when the alert was made, it was actually sitting lower. Okay, and we can see that they made a little run yesterday. Now, what does it look like? It looks like they went over 300,000, because we can see right now, looking at our pricing, that this line is telling us we're sitting at 0.000198. Okay, so if this is at 0.003, that tells us immediately that this was definitely over 300,000. So if we went ahead and set that alert at 107, and let's say, again, I'm just taking the scenario that you decided that, hey, maybe I'm going to go ahead and set the same alerts, that this guy's setting, me obviously doing the video, that you would have obviously been in profit. So, but here, after this run, and even here, because I've talked about, these huge buy candles, that you didn't see a bunch of retracement. I mean, there were some, but not a whole lot. And then people continue to go ahead and still, and buy into this chart. And then, as I've mentioned before, you got people that may have gotten in at these lower levels and just waiting to see how many more buys are going to keep coming in before they decide to go ahead and dump their tokens or offload those tokens. So you get this big sell candle right here, and then continued retracement. A candle like this can lead to people panicking, thinking that the chart's going to go ahead and start dumping. Okay, so maybe they wanted a better sell position, but they saw this big sell candle, and that led to them deciding to go ahead and sell and sell and sell. Now we did get some bounce back from that, but we see more retracement, and we're getting a little bit of a bounce back here. But either way, when you think about it, you look at these alerts. These alerts were created 2 days ago. Okay, and at 107, and this has touched over 300 now. Is it going to get back to 300? I mean, I think it's encouraging that it's still sitting at 194, but that's just the information that we're getting here from the chart, right? So what would I do? I would want to go back into the Telegram and take a look at what's going on. But in this one, I didn't take a screenshot, but I think I saw something, on the bubble maps that was concerning for me on this one. I don't know if it was concerning, but either way, it was something that I saw that I wanted to bring up. And here, if we look here, okay, we're going to open up the wallet list. We've got a cluster percentage of 10%. That is a red flag to me. Here, if we look here, we've got a cluster percentage of 9% across 5 wallets. So for this one, for me personally, even though, yes, we've got, some, we saw that there's, especially if you decide to go ahead and get in at this area here at 107, that definitely you're in profit, but because of those clusters of wallets that are holding, to me, an uncomfortable amount of the supply. I typically don't want to see people holding more than anywhere between 3 and 5%. But when you start to get into that 7, 8, 9, 10% arena, I mean, that's enough to go ahead and kill a chart. So to me, this is not one that I would continue to go ahead and mess with. And this is why I'm also reiterating, you don't want to necessarily ignore bubble maps, because bubble maps will tell you some things that you can't see otherwise, or that you don't necessarily see otherwise. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and close this one out, but before we do that, I'm personally going to go ahead and be getting rid of the alerts on this particular one, just because after I took a look at bubble maps, this was post video, okay, so not during the recording, but afterwards, when I saw that it was starting to make some moves. One of the things is, like, before I take an entry, I want to go ahead and assess as much information as I can before possibly jumping in, okay? Especially if it's going to be with any significant amount of funds going into a particular token. I want to know, is this a good idea? Is this safe? Is there going to be anything that's going to go ahead and nuke whatever investment I'm making, in terms of a particular token? And that's where I believe, that bubble maps is not a bad idea to go ahead and take a look at, just to give you another snapshot of something that you might not see looking elsewhere. And that means looking at the chart, looking at the buy transactions, looking at the community, and so forth. So just keep that in mind. All right, so that closes out basically the review stuff that I wanted to take a look at. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the filters, but I'm going to go ahead and pause this real quick, and then we'll go and move into the next part of this. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with, because I've already reset my screen here, we're going to start with the configuration. So again, if you're new, I always go ahead and do this, especially if I'm resetting the window. But if I've left it sometimes like I do just overnight, then I don't have to go through this, but I'm going through this again. So price is going to be gone, transactions, volume, makers, I uncheck all that stuff. I do want to keep, so again, I'm keeping the age and also keep the 5-minute, 1 hour, 6 hour, and 24 hour. Liquidity, I don't care about, because we don't ever touch liquidity. We always leave it at 1,000. Okay, and then we'll keep market cap. So that's it. We click apply, and then we can see that some of the information we had before, now it's no longer there. So with that being said, we're going to go into our filters now, and we're going to click on both of these, Solana and Ethereum. So we're going to see what we got going on both chains today. This also means whenever we choose more than one platform, okay, it removes the dexes. All right, so we don't touch the dexes at this point. Now the market cap, we're going to go ahead and start out with our standard 50,000, and we're going to go to 100,000. Okay, since we're selecting both chains, and I don't want to go ahead and make this video super long, so we'll see what we come up with, and then if we don't get much, then we'll come back here and we'll make some adjustments, on the filters. All right, so pair age. We're going to go ahead and let's go with, let's start out with 3 hours. We haven't done something at 3 hours. So we're going to go ahead and go 3 hours to 15 hours. All right, so a couple of arbitrary numbers. All right, 24-hour change. We're going to do our 10% as always. And what that means essentially is that I don't want to see anything that hasn't had at least a 10% gain in, the last 24 hours. Now, obviously, we're going 3 to 15 hours, but 24 hours is just going to be, for basically the life, of the token. Okay. So we're going to click apply. Everything else has been, we're not touching that. So remember, like I said early on in this video series, we're going to keep this pretty straightforward, that even though I have talked about, some of these other ones, we want to just keep this, pretty simple, for our purposes. Okay. So, we get 10 tokens to go ahead and take a look at. We're going to go ahead and click on the 24-hour here, because we want to start out with, or at least sort by, the tokens, with the largest gain in the life of their token. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start opening up some tabs. Okay, and we're going to see what we get. All right, so what I open up, I think 7 of them, I think. All right, so we'll start with that. And then we're going to run through and just take a look, what the charts look like, and then we'll dig in from there. Okay, so we're on the 1 minute, so we want to change that. 5 minute or 15 is probably going to be better. Okay, just because of the time frame that we're looking at. Okay, and what I mean by that, especially if you're new, is that if we go to 15 minutes, we can see less and less of the chart. Okay, and we want to see more details, right? So if you go to the day, then you just get the straight line. So we want to see more. 1 second to me is, I don't need to see that much. 1 minute, I can leave it at 1 minute, but for me, I'll leave it at 5. The 5 is fine. You can still see enough of the chart. Okay, so we're going to go back through and we're going to do that with all of these. Okay, so making our adjustments, and I see that we got a couple of flags there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here, I think I actually want to go out on that one. So we're going to 1 second. We'll talk about that one. 2, remember, when we're taking a look at newer tokens, we're going to see some chart patterns that, obviously indicate that they're not healthy. Okay, so, okay, and we see some flags on this one too. Okay, so here we go. We can see, looking at steel, we're at the 5 minute, chart. We get a couple of socials, but only Twitter and Discord, so we could take a look at the Discord, but I'm going to focus on, the ones that have telegrams. Okay, so with that being said, this is probably one that I'm not going to go and pay any attention to. Okay, so we're going to close this one out, even though they are still getting some buys. Again, I'm not interested in focusing on Discord, you can if you want. You know, for anybody that, as I've mentioned before, if you want to, you know, if something comes that we come across, you know, live on video is something you think you might want to take a look at, you can always go ahead and do that. Also keep in mind that you see the names up here. We haven't talked about this before, but you can click on the name. All right, so we'll do that here. We'll copy it, and then you can go to the search bar here, and then you can paste it in here, and there we go. So this is the same one. Was this the same one that we're looking at? Yeah, so this is at 58K. So, and this was at 58K. So yeah, it's the same one. And so that's another way to go ahead and find these. So let's say that you're looking at this after I've uploaded it to YouTube, and you know, maybe you put in the same filters, but this token is not showing up. You can always go ahead and take the name as you see it on the screen. You can type it into their search box, you know, here in Dexscreener, and it will go ahead and help you, you know, find what you're looking for. Okay, so there we go. We're going to close out of this. Okay, so with that being said, so we're going to close out of this one. All right, we're going to go to Bolt, and what do we see here as far as Bolt's concerned? We do see, you know, their socials. Looking at the chart pattern. The chart pattern to me on this one does look healthy. We will take a look, you know, at the Telegram, and let's see what's going on there. All right, so it's going to give us, okay, so there we go. All right, and we got a portal. Okay, we're clicking on start. We got our link. So let's see, we got over 600 members in the group. Looks like they're doing some raids. I do like the fact, you know, that they're looking for some decent amount of activity, you know, from their, you know, from their community. Okay, so, and if you can go ahead and get, you know, at least 10 likes, you know, from your community, even though that doesn't seem like a lot, that does indicate to me that that is, you know, decent, you know, participation, you know, coming from your group. So with that being said, all right, so let's take a look at what they've got going on in the pinned messages. You know, so we got a few pinned messages, well, 6. 3 is a few, 6 is not. Okay, so looking at pinned message number 5, they're just basically, you know, telling you that, look, you know, the admins are never going to go ahead and DM you or ask for funds, you know, so be aware of that. I'm going to go ahead and close this out since we did a VC earlier today. Bolt giveaway alert. So they're giving away $2,000 to one lucky Bolt user. They'll be chosen randomly, and the prize will be delivered within 12 hours. You know, so where you qualify, you know, you got to hold at least some Bolt tokens, you know, in your wallet. So, okay, and this is just more on the giveaway. They just entered, you know, so they're talking about rating here. They did a boost, you know, which means they're invested, you know, in this token. So they've spent some money to go ahead and at least try to get some exposure, you know, for the token, which is a positive. And here, CherryBot trending, you know, obviously they've gone ahead and they've spent some money to try to get, you know, some exposure, you know, for the token. So that's always, I mean, that's good stuff to see. We're going to go back. All right, we're going to close this out. So keep in mind, they're doing some things to try to go ahead and increase exposure. My only concern, you know, for this particular token, one, you're seeing a lot of sell pressure. Here, you know, obviously they made, you know, some movement upwards, but a lot of retracement. And when I see that there's just so much, you know, you got a lot of red going on this chart, that would give me pause, you know, as far as, you know, on this chart. Now, what's also translating into that is what we see over here in this informational area. On the 5-minute, there's, you know, you're in a minus. In the 1 hour, we're also in the minus. In the 6 hour, you know, you're down negative, you know, minus 43%, you know, so, and this 24 hour here, when you're looking at almost 7,000%, that's more about what happened at the launch than anything else, you know, so here for me, I think this is probably going to likely see, you know, continued retracement. It's just my own personal opinion. And while I think it's great that they're doing a giveaway, here's the reality. If you go ahead and you're buying tokens to go ahead and be eligible for a giveaway, whoever wins that giveaway, what are they going to do? They've already got the tokens, or they've already won the prize. They're going to go ahead and dump the tokens, right? More than likely. At least that's my own personal opinion. You know, and if you're seeing this kind of red, and it's already on a chart, you know, what does that tend to lead other people to do? It leads other people to go ahead and sell, because people tend to buy on charts where people are buying into. And what do they tend to do when people are selling on a chart? They tend to follow the same behavior. They tend to go ahead and sell. So, but either way, just for the sake of curiosity, let's go ahead and let's set a couple of alerts, you know, on this one. You know, so we're sitting at 77K. So here we go. We're going to make our note. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and set the, this one at, let's set it at 60,000. That'll be our indicator on this one on the under. And then we're going to set one going over. We're at 76K or 77. Actually, it should have been 76, but either way, we're still within the ballpark. I'm going to set this one at 90. I want to see this one actually make some movement, to get rid of some of this red on the chart and see if they can hold that and maybe continue to move. This might be an interesting one to take a look at, beyond just the content of the video. All right, and we didn't set our note, so we're going to set that. This is actually 76K, so that's what I'm going to do. And just for the sake of being consistent, let's go ahead and let's do the same thing here. So we're going to close this out. All right, so we're done there on this one. Here, we've got these flags. Anytime you see these flags, the token's mintable. This token is freezable automatically, and we're not seeing any kind of, socials. This is one we don't want to take a look at. All right, so we're going to exit out of that. Here on this one, no socials. I don't like the chart pattern. We see a bunch of, buys and not a bunch of sells. And this one, in terms of like age, this one's been going for 15 hours, and this is what you got going on the chart. To me, automatically indicates that, this is likely a scam. So we're going to go and get out of that. This one, again, I've talked about this stuff before. Look, I don't really care for this kind of chart pattern. How long has it been live? It's been live for 9 hours. And this is what we got going on in terms of, buys and sells on the chart. Ton of buys, nobody's really selling. This tells me this is likely a scam as well. So we're going to go ahead and leave that one alone. On Mobi here, we don't see, any socials. Again, depending on what our filters are, that can also, give you some idea in terms of, what looks like it might be a scam and so forth. But when our filters are looking at newer tokens, we're likely to also run into a higher likelihood of scams. So just be aware of that, which is why I tend to not look at the super new ones. I tend to look at tokens that have at least survived a day or two, because those tend to, not saying, it's for sure, for certain that, it's not going to turn out to be a scam, but I just find that there's less likelihood of that. And obviously, that's got to be in complement, with other things that I'm seeing, such as what's going on in the community. I may be taking a look at bubble maps. I may be taking a look at the buy transactions and the chart. All these things give me context and information to help me make a more informed decision, and assessment, what's going on, with a particular token. So, but this one, again, likelihood of it being a scam is probably up there. So we're going to leave this one alone. And here we get some flags. Token's mintable, token is freezable. Don't like the chart pattern, as well. No socials. All those things to me lead to the likelihood that it's going to be a scam. Okay, so we're going to take a look at these last ones, and remember, because now we're at 11 tokens. There's obviously somebody else that showed up on this, on this screen that wasn't there before. But we're just going to go ahead and load the last 4 here to see what's going on with their charts. Okay, and then we got another one that showed up because now we're at 12. So, and I don't know, maybe it was this one, maybe. And we're going to go ahead and load this one because I don't think I saw that one before. So we're going to see. Maybe I loaded up one. Yeah, this one. This one was one we already took a look at that we already determined was a scam. This one obviously is a scam. We don't even need to go ahead and highlight anything else on that. This one as well. Whenever you see those flags, it's mintable and freezable. And guys, remember, like I said yesterday, there's going to be times where we see more scams, as we're doing these live videos. But again, that comes down to the filters that we're putting in. And you're going to see, it's just a guarantee, you're going to see more scams when you're looking at newer, fresh tokens. Okay. So, but I'd like to go ahead and at least, highlight those sometimes, on the newer, ones, based on the filters that we put in, just because I know some of you guys may be looking for very fresh launches. Okay. So this is on the 1 second. We're going to move this over to 5 minutes to see what's going on here. Okay. So this one right here, sitting at 59K, and we can see a huge sell candle. So at this point, if you were in this, likelihood of somebody thinking, oh my gosh, like we just got rugged. I could see where that thought process would come into, because obviously there was a huge dump right here, whether that was one wallet or several wallets. Either way, this typically is not the kind of chart you want to even, have amongst your considerations, because even though you're still seeing some buys come in, nobody's trying to go ahead and buy into a chart that looks like this. So we're going to close this one out. And this one, so we're going to go to the 5 minute here. Again, chart pattern, and we can see these 2 flags. Nope, leave that one alone as well. And this one too, same situation. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and put in some different filters, because obviously we've just run into a bunch of scams. All right. And so we're going to, let's go for, I don't know, let's do 24 hours, and let's take a look at anything that's been alive for at least 1 to 2 days. And we're going to go, we'll leave it at Solana and Ethereum. We'll still leave it there. Okay. So here's what we got. All right. So we're going to open up some here. Let's see if we can come across, some decent ones that are not scamming. So we got 10 tokens. So we're going to open up the first 5. We're going to take a look at their charts and see what we've got going on. Okay. So there's that one. There's that one. So I'm just doing a quick scan just to see if there's anything that's got any potential here. This one looks like it does. So we're going to close out these 3 because there was nothing going on there. And Lotus looks like we might want to take a look at that one too. We're going to move this to a 1 hour because obviously now our time frame is no longer within that 3 hour to 12 hour or 3 to 15 hour. Now we're looking at 1 to 2 days. And here we're going to move over to the 1 hour as well. All right, and then we're going to take a look at the last 5. Just going to open those up real quick as well to see if we got anything that looks like it may have potential. So this one, only 1 social, okay? And you see I'm moving a little bit quicker. So it tends to be my workflow. I slow things down a little bit in terms of explaining things, for the sake of the video. But I can usually tell right away, at least on my own, whether it's going to be something I want to look at or not. So this one's got some socials, and this one, no socials. So we're not going to take a look at that. So I don't see anything great, but either way, we'll still go ahead and take a look, at it, at them, and see if we can maybe set some alerts based on what we see, in the Telegram communities. Because again, even at these lower levels, you never know what might be a catalyst to go ahead and move something back up. Okay. And that's really the case in, each of these. All right. So we're going to take a look at the Telegram here for Rojo. Okay. And see what's going on. All right. So we'll click and start, and we're taking a look here. All right, so we got over 200 members here on the Telegram. This looks like it's, we can automatically see that this is a CTO. Okay, and let's see here. So they've gone through here, for their, for trending. Okay, and they've also got, they're trying to get votes. Okay, voting for this particular token through MajorBot. So they're trying to go ahead and get votes to go ahead and get trending here as well. All right, and then they've got another pin message. Everybody, if you got a blue check, tweet about the token using the hashtag in the CA. And then they'll go ahead and they'll shield the tweets to try to go ahead and get each tweet done through a verified account, some more exposure. But again, as always, I typically like to see more than a few pin messages, and we're not really seeing much activity going on here. So this is one where I'm not so sure about this. And, when you look at, because remember, another thing that I like to do is take a look, at the last buy. This one took place at 1:01. My clock is showing 1:17. So that's over 10 minutes. I mentioned this in the last video. When you're looking at more than 10 minutes, as far as, your time between buys, that's too long. So for me personally on this one I'm not going to go ahead and really pay attention to because I feel like, at this point, it's just, I'd want to see more buy activity, on this to really go ahead and even take this one seriously in terms of setting any kind of alerts, so we're going to leave this one alone. All right, so here we've got Lotus. We're going to take a look at the Telegram and see what's going on in this one. So we're going to open it up and see here. They don't have a portal. Doesn't look like it. So I'm going to go ahead and click here. Yeah, there's no portal. So as soon as, you get here, you just go ahead and click on join the group. So we've got some rating taking place. All right. Looking at the pin messages, they have a number of pin messages. Okay, so that's always positive. All right, this is just their X account. Now we're looking at Reddit. Okay, and this is some other information that they're providing here in the pin message. Let's see. I'm looking for anything that can tell me that they're doing something in the way of trying to get some additional exposure for the token. A community member paid 10 boost on the Dex. So we have another community member willing to pay half for a 500 boost gold ticker. That is helpful information. Okay. But this, I think, took place. This was a couple of days ago. Okay. So, and since we've been in this particular community, we haven't seen any additional messages. So that's another thing to me that's a bit of a flag that you don't really have much engagement, much community, much activity going on in this channel. So for this one, for me personally, this is one that I probably wouldn't take a serious look at either, just because I'd want to see more activity. But this is also what probably indicates, why you're seeing continued retracement as well. We've got retracement on the 1 hour. We've got retracement on the 6 hour. We've got nothing going on in the 5 minute, and a little bit going on here on the 24 hour. But again, you'd want to see a lot more than this, honestly. So we're going to go ahead and X out of that. And then for this one here, we are seeing some activity here in the buy transactions, and we're going to take a look at their channel, see if there's see what's going on there. We get a portal, so we're going to go ahead and go in. We're going to click start. We're going to get our link, and we're going to join the group. So we've got over 550 members here, and then we can see that they're doing some rating. We've got a VC going on, which is always helpful to see that. Okay, nothing going on that pin message. We got a bunch of pin messages, but again, let's see if there's anything going on that's going to lead to, hey, we're trying to go ahead and push this. We also see that we're seeing some activity in terms of additional messages since we entered the chat. Looks like they're trying to go ahead and do something on TikTok, which is helpful for additional exposure. Okay. So yeah, they've got some trending going on as well. So we're, like I said, we're seeing some additional, activity here, even since we've been in the channel. Obviously, the last buy just took place, so that is also helpful information. So this is one where I think that, yes, setting some alerts does make sense. Okay? Because like I said before, even though we've run across a number of tokens today that really haven't, really been doing anything, sometimes you're going to run into that based on the filters that you set, which is why you adjust your filters to see a different set of tokens that the filters will produce for you, to take a look at, see, what else may be another opportunity. Okay, this is how we went ahead and we found, what's going on with Claude 2, how we found what's going on with Fusk token, that I showed you in the beginning. You find those tokens based on the alerts, or not based on the alerts, but based on the filters. The alerts give you the indicator as to, maybe something is developing with this particular token, and then you decide on how you want to proceed from there. So this is at 63. We're going to go ahead and set some alerts, set our note here at 63K. Okay, and remember, we don't ever pay attention to, at least not for me personally, pay attention to price in USD or the native token. We go straight to the market cap because it's easier to follow. I'm going to set this at 75K. See, we'll see what it's looking like, there, if it can trigger that alert for me. All right, so we created that one. We're also going to create one that goes under, again, making our note at 63K. And we're going to set this one at 50,000, okay? Because I want to know, is this going to move up or is it going to continue to retrace? All right, so there we go. And that's going to do it, in terms of this particular video for today. I hope everybody's enjoying their Sunday. Thank you once again for following along, continuing, to navigate, what we're doing daily, on Dexscreener, to go ahead and try to find some new opportunities. If any of this, was a lot to go ahead and, really wrap your head around, you're always encouraged to go back, and review, what I've talked about, on the video, so that you can get a better understanding and feel, for how to go ahead and do this stuff, as well, especially if you're on the newer side, crypto, or if you've just never really, navigated Dexscreener the way that we're doing it through this series. Remember, pay attention to the links in the description. Obviously don't ignore the call channel, where I make calls, on that channel, as it makes sense to make the calls. Sometimes we do pre-launches, sometimes we do, tokens that have already launched. And there's also the X channel as well, where I provide some calls there too. So thank you again so much for following. I appreciate everybody's support. And if you subscribed, thank you for being a subscriber. If you're not subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. All right, so you can get alerts when new videos are dropped. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. You take care. I'm going to go ahead and get this edited. We'll get this uploaded. And, until next time.